The courtroom fell silent as Judge Thomas slammed his gavel. Asterisk an arrest warrant for Ibrahim Traoré. He declared. Asterisk gasps erupted, but within minutes, the plan to bring down the young African leader took a turn no one in history could have predicted. Asterisk it was a cold, gray morning in the marble-walled courthouse when Judge Thomas stepped onto the bench, his black robe flowing like a shadow behind him. The room was packed, diplomats in polished shoes, journalists clutching cameras, and a handful of silent men in dark suits who never blinked. For weeks, rumors had been swirling about a powerful move against Ibrahim Traoré, the young and fiercely independent president of Burkina Faso. Traoré had refused foreign demands, torn up unfair contracts, and declared that his nation's resources belonged to its people, a stance that made him a hero at home, but a thorn in the side of those who sought to control him. Now, Judge Thomas leaned forward, his voice deep and deliberate as he read from the paper in his hand. By the authority vested in this court, I hereby issue an international arrest warrant for Ibrahim Traoré. The words hit the air like a gunshot. Cameras flashed. Gasps rose from the crowd. Somewhere in the back, a foreign official smiled, faintly, certain that this moment would mark the end of the African leader's defiance. But in Ouagadougou, thousands of miles away, the president's aides burst into his office with the breaking news. Traoré didn't flinch. He set down his pen, looked out the window at the busy streets of his capital, and a slow, knowing smile spread across his face. He understood something Judge Thomas and his powerful friends had not yet realized. This was not a blow to his leadership, but the spark that would ignite a fire far beyond their control. And as the world's headlines screamed about his imminent arrest, Traoré was already planning his next move. Asterisk the world expected Ibrahim Traoré to retreat into silence, to scramble for lawyers, or to slip quietly into hiding. But the young president did the exact opposite. Within hours of hearing about the warrant, he ordered the palace balcony doors thrown open. The golden afternoon sun bathed the courtyard below, where hundreds of people had already gathered. Murmuring anxiously about the news, Traoré stepped out, dressed not in a suit, but in his simple military fatigues, the uniform that reminded his people he was one of them. Raising his voice above the restless crowd, he spoke with a calmness that cut through the tension. My brothers and sisters, he began, this warrant is not about me, it is about you. They want to wrest our future, our dignity, our right to stand tall as a free people. A ripple of determination swept through the listeners. Phones came out, recording every word, and within minutes, his speech was flooding social media across Africa. Markets, schools, and bus stations buzzed with conversations about sovereignty and justice. Across the continent, people who had never met Traoré began to see him as a voice for all Africans. In distant offices, the very officials who had pushed Judge Thomas to act watched in disbelief. The warrant meant to weaken him had instead turned him into a rallying point for unity. That night, as lights twinkled over Ouagadougou, Traoré sat with his closest advisors. His tone was measured, but firm. They think they control the game, he said, but they've just handed us the board. Outside, the city didn't sleep. It was alive with the quiet, but unstoppable energy of a people ready to defend what was theirs. Asterisk news of their arrest warrant tore through the globe like wildfire, and by the next morning, the story had leapt from African news outlets to the front pages of major newspapers in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Television anchors spoke in urgent tones, analysts debated on live panels, and social media exploded with competing hashtags. Some demanded justice against Traoré, others defending him as a symbol of African pride. In Addis Ababa, the African Union called an emergency meeting, while in Paris and New York, protesters began gathering outside embassies, waving signs that read "Hands off Africa" and "We stand with Traoré." What was meant to be a quiet, legal move was turning into a public relations storm. Meanwhile, investigative journalists, smelling a deeper story, began to dig into the charges. Within days, leaked documents surfaced showing that the case was built on questionable evidence and fueled by political pressure from powerful foreign interests. The narrative shifted rapidly. What had been framed as an act of law now looked more like an act of intimidation. Judge Thomas, once praised for his decisiveness, found himself bombarded with criticism from unexpected places, including voices inside his own legal community. International talk shows replayed Traoré's balcony speech again and again, noting the courage in his voice and the unity it had sparked. In Ouagadougou, crowds grew larger each evening, holding candles, singing and pledging that no outsider would decide the fate of their leader. Across the ocean, those who had orchestrated the warrant began to realize the danger of their miscalculation. Instead of isolating Traore, they had made him a global figure, one whose strength seemed only to grow under pressure, and the storm was far from over. The operation to arrest Ibrahim Traoré was planned in secrecy, but nothing in Burkina Faso stayed secret for long. Before dawn, an international police unit landed at the Ouagadougou airport, expecting to move swiftly and quietly. Instead, they were met with a sight no intelligence report had prepared them for: thousands of people, standing shoulder to shoulder, filling every road leading out of the terminal. Farmers with calloused hands, teachers still in their chalk-dusted clothes, mothers carrying babies on their backs, all chanting Traore's name in unison. The air was thick with determination, the kind that made even trained officers hesitate. Some locals held handmade signs: "*You can't arrest a nation*, ***, we are Traore*". News crews had somehow arrived before the arrest team, and the world was watching live as this human shield refused to move. Back at the palace, Traore didn't hide. He walked calmly into a courtyard swarming with journalists. "Tell them," he said, his voice steady but powerful, "you cannot arrest the will of a people." His words, broadcast in real time, spread across continents within minutes, igniting fresh waves of solidarity. The police commander, faced with an impossible situation and mounting global scrutiny, made the call to retreat. The convoy turned back toward the airport, their mission aborted. That night, the city erupted in celebration, drums, dancing, and fireworks filling the air. But inside foreign offices far away, silence fell. The arrest warrant, once thought to be a masterstroke, had just turned into a historic embarrassment. And for the first time, those who had pulled the strings began to fear they might have created something far more powerful than they had ever tried to destroy. In the weeks that followed the failed arrest, the world's attention stayed locked on Burkina Faso. Judge Thomas, once so confident in his decision, now sat under the harsh light of an inquiry panel, forced to explain how a supposedly airtight case had collapsed in public humiliation. Reports from inside the investigation revealed a tangled web of political pressure, foreign interference, and fabricated claims, and one by one, the pieces of the case against Ibrahim Traoré crumbled into dust. International agencies quietly withdrew their support, and without ceremony, the arrest warrant was officially canceled. But by then, its damage to the credibility of those who had issued it was irreversible. In Ouagadougou, Traoré did not stand on balconies to gloat, nor did he stage grand parades. Instead, he returned to his daily work, inspecting new schools under construction, visiting rural farms, and meeting with young entrepreneurs. His message was clear: leadership was not about winning against rivals, but about serving the people. Who trusted you? Across Africa, his story became legend, told in classrooms, sung in markets, and shared online as proof that even the smallest nation could stand against the weight of powerful forces. For Judge Thomas and his allies, the attempt to silence Traoré had achieved the opposite. It had given him a platform larger than they could have imagined. And for the people of Burkina Faso, the events had strengthened something far more valuable than political power: an unshakable belief that their destiny was their own. As the sun set one golden evening over the capital, children played in the streets, laughter echoing through the warm air. Somewhere in the presidential office, Traoré looked out over his city with quiet resolve, knowing the battle had been won not by him alone, but by a nation united. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, comment, and share to spread the word. Don't forget to subscribe to Faso Histories for more powerful stories from Africa and beyond.